My name is Bond.
James Bond.
Shaken, not stirred.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
I'm now aiming precisely at your groin.
That's not funny, 007.
For England, James? No.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with Enter the BondVerse. It's been a couple of weeks. We've taken some time off. We've been doing some stuff.
Visited the homeland, I did.
Visited the homeland, exactly. Me and Kyle met up in person for the first time ever.
Well,
For the first time.
first time in a long time.
The first time in a long time, and it was really nice. But that is a discussion for saps, Kyle. And you know who
Right,
ain't no sap?
Who ain't no sap, Nathan?
James Bond.
James Bond, but James Bond from our homeland. Thank you very much. So it is
you're right. You
relevant, you see.
really wanted to plug that. You see, yes. We went to Sean Connery's grave.
Oh, we should have gone to Sean Connery's grave. I don't know where it is. It's
No,
probably in the States somewhere.
But I know he probably cremated at sea or something.
Like a good Navy officer.
Good Navy officer should be. And what the last thing Kyle said when I said we'll ever see you again? What did you say, Kyle?
Never say never again.
1983.
I guess.
That's exactly what he said.
1983.
That's exactly what he said. And everyone else there went, what?
What the fuck are you talking
What the
about?
hell are you saying? Yeah, but I knew, this is the connection me and Kyle have, I knew exactly what he meant, because the next time we've spoken since, because we haven't spoken since, is for this. We are here, ladies and gentlemen, finally looking at the return of Sean Connery, the non-Eon canon Bond flick, Never Say Never Again, a quote famously attributed to Sean Connery by his wife because of something he said at the end when he returned for Diamonds Are Forever, that he would never again play the role of James Bond.
Is that the relevance of the name? Okay, it's an in joke.
Yeah, it's exactly an in-joke, yeah. They were going to call this film like Warhead or War Game with some year at the end of it, and then decided that this was better. And actually, I completely agree. This is far more James Bond.
Right, okay. I was wondering about this because do general audiences understand what the deal with this movie is? I'm going to assume the answer is no. They just think this is like a weird one.
So, they may understand more than you think, Kyle.
Okay. I mean, I assume this must have been a big deal at the time that this came out, right? Two Bond movies in the cinema.
You bet your sweet bippy it was, Kyle. This was the head-to-head, the moment. This was Connery versus Moore. This was Octopussy versus Never Say Never Again.
They're really both put their best foot forward, aren't they?
This was supposed to be maybe the start of a new spin-off Bond franchise with Sean Connery. This wasn't meant to just be a one and done, you know? But it was...
God, that would have been so strange.
But it was a bit of a nightmare to make, and they just kind of ran out of ideas, I think, and just stopped it. Now, this movie, actually, crucially, was a financial success. However, it did make more money than... it did not make more money than Octopussy. Octopussy was more critically and financially successful.
Well, okay, I'm still unclear on how this exists. Like, what is the weird rights thing that makes this movie possible?
Well, shall I explain?
Please do.
So, before Ian Fleming wrote the novel Thunderball, he had worked on a story with two other writers, Kevin McClory and Jack Whittingham. And for various reasons, that story was kind of never completed with them explicitly, right? But Ian Fleming found that the story was too good to abandon. So he
turned it into Thunderball?
Yeah, he basically finished it and adapted it and turned it into Thunderball. And when they went on in 1965 to make the film Thunderball, there was this contention about, wait, this is based on that novel that's actually originally part of our idea, you know? And then there was a legal battle about, from the 60s, by the way, about, who actually got to retain the filming rights for the novel and who actually belonged to it. Now, it wasn't actually successful enough to stop Thunderball from releasing. Thunderball got, as we know, as history has spoken, Thunderball came out.
Yeah, and it's fine.
Well, crucially, Kevin McClory retained filming rights of the novel following the legal battle. But the film had come out, but that was fine. But this is his one film, right, that he gets to keep. Or the one story, his filming rights he gets to retain. And then we kind of hop, skip, and a jump down the years. And he's kind of always kind of been a bit salty about it, because he also now owns the rights to Spectre and Blofeld.
I guess, were they introduced in the Thunderball novel? Is that why?
Possibly, I'm unsure. You do see them in the scene with number 2 and all that at the start of Thunderball. Never explicitly called Blofeld.
Yes, but they're also in Dr. No.
Yes, but is there a cat?
There is a cat in
Is Dr. No before Thunderball?
It's the first movie.
No, I meant in the books. In the book chronology.
Well, I don't know.
Well, see, this is where our podcast falls apart. This is where our podcast is rubbish. I can give you all the Star Trek facts you like later on, though. What should actually be noted here about this Titan, this clash of Bonds, this Moore versus Connery, this Grandpa versus Grandpa Bond fest,
Yep.
is that Sean Connery is actually 3 years younger than Roger Moore when these films came out.
I was wondering about that. Yeah, I know that Moore wasn't exactly a younger model that they switched to, because it was supposed to be a continuation of the same character,
Yes.
right? So they didn't cast younger.
Yeah, which is just because I actually think in Never Say Never Again, Sean Connery looks very good. Sure, his face is wrinkled, right?
His face is wrinkled. He's got some grey in his hair now, but he's looking pretty good.
The Last Crusade Connery.
To be fair, I think Last Crusade kind of deliberately ages him up a little bit.
But isn't that kind of...
Because he's supposed to be the dad of Harrison Ford.
He's only 10 years older than him in real life. But isn't that kind of what Sean Connery would go on to just look like for off camera and on camera forever?
I guess, yeah, he did kind of adopt that look with the beard.
Yeah.
The white hair.
Yeah, and the bald head. Yeah, that's just kind of what he became. Whereas I feel like this is almost a different person, This is like TOS William Shatner and the motion picture William Shatner.
Maybe there might be some movie in between that's like their transitional era.
Yeah, where he's balding.
We haven't seen it.
Yeah, we haven't seen it. Now, we do have some distinct legal substitutions for this film, Kyle.
Oh, we do, yes.
Now, lots of Eon era stuff is just not in this film. We don't have a gun barrel, we don't have a Bond theme. There were talks of making some sort of substitute theme, but they just decided against it.
Mm-hmm. We do have a Bond song, though, for the title of the movie.
We do. We have Never Say Never Again, which is a song I actually think is better than some of the more recent Bond songs we've had.
I actually agree. I think this one's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's quite good as well. But we're met, instead of with a gun barrel, Kyle, it's a wall of 007 logos.
Yes. This movie feels slightly lower budget, I think, than some of the Eon films.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, the fact that they were able to make it, though, is pretty amazing, considering the uphill battle I assume it was, Now, this is directed by Irving Kershner. This is the director of RoboCop 2 and Empire Strikes Back. Various other things less sort of prominent.
Maybe our most high-profile director so far.
Possibly. And we get a lot of the second unit team from all 3 of the Indiana Jones movies on this, because Irving Kershner is good friends with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. And I think you can tell with some of the adventure set pieces in this, especially with the horse chase stuff.
There's some Indiana Jones bones in this.
There is some Indiana Jones bones in this. You also get the fight in the health clinic between Bond and the big henchman.
Oh, we'll get to that, yeah.
Well, I just want to know about this actor. He looks like General Zod's big Kryptonian man from Superman 2.
Yes.
He just looks like a big evil Kryptonian man. But he's actually the big mechanic fella from Raiders of the Lost Ark that fights Indy at the plane. He's also...
Okay, the guy who gets chopped up in a
propeller.
Propeller.
He's also the guard from the Temple of Doom that keeps all the kids in line.
Yep, and brown face. Yep, it's the same guy.
Same guy. And then he has a role as some sort of Nazi in The Last Crusade.
I think he's one of the guys that tries to kick him off the blimp.
Possibly. It's his least standy outy bit anyway.
Yeah. I think, if I remember correctly from Last Crusade, there was supposed to be a bigger fight scene there, but they cut it for time.
Yeah.
And so they ended up just doing the thing where he punches him out of the plane.
Yeah, it says no ticket. Yeah.
No ticket. Great movie. That's a great movie. That's a much better movie than this.
That's a much better movie than this. When we're doing the Enter the Indieverse, We'll do the Tales of Indiana Jones as well.
Okay, yeah. Well, okay. First of all, I think, interestingly, before we get into the meat of this movie, is it canon again? Kind of, because they're all owned by the same company
Yeah,
now?
so eventually
Like,
MGM...
Is this now sort of filtered back into the canon?
MGM did get the rights back to it, I think in the early 2000s or the late 90s. I'm not quite sure on the dates, but it did become like it was a thing when they got it back, you know? I think the owners kind of sold the filming rights to Thunderball back to them as well, because that only actually happened in 2012 or something, Kyle. That's why they rushed to make Spectre with Daniel Craig, because that's them getting the Spectre rights back for the first time ever, you know? And so this actually was going on until like the end of Daniel Craig's era, you know? Like, it's Spectre returning is like, there's a reason that Moore never fought Spectre, you know? And this is, I know it's kind of been happening kind of behind the scenes for a while before Never Say Never Again, but this is your big like volcanic eruption moment before it kind of subsides again for the next 30 years. Like, do you imagine Pierce Brosnan fighting Spectre? Like, it's just, that's not, it would be weird. It's not what those films are, you know? There's a certain kind of John Wick kind of high table, low table thing about Spectre that's a bit camp. That just kind of, I feel like Bond, for me and you, for the majority of our lifetimes, is just not what the franchise was. So for Spectre kind of pop up again in the modern era, you're like, oh, this is a relic.
Yeah.
We should also know...
I mean, we'll get to that when we get to those movies.
There is a opening title sequence they had filmed for this in a more traditional cold open into opening song. And then they decided to just not use it for the sake of being different, I suppose.
No, yeah. So we cut to Bond in like the middle of the mountains somewhere.
Running
I
through
think
trees.
it's supposed to be some sort of South American country.
It's very Rambo.
It's very Rambo, yes. He's wearing like a sort of Rambo costume.
Military fatigues. And he's got like camouflage face.
He's breaking into this building to rescue some sort of lady who's been tied up.
Yeah, and he doing his best. He fighting whilst the opening intro song's playing and we're getting credits of who's in the movie and who directed it, etc., etc.
Yes. No opening sequence. This is the opening sequence, right into the action.
Absolutely.
It is a little bit distressing to do it without the Bond intro, but you know.
Yeah, no opening barrel. I was rocking back and forward.
How can I even go into this movie if Bond doesn't shoot me at the start of the movie?
Exactly. I'm going to get shot and I'm going to like it.
But anyway, so Bond, he takes all the goons out, he has a big fight, and then he rescues the lady, and then, dun dun dun, Nathan, she stabs him.
Bond, how did you not see that coming? This was like Sean Connery's Harrison Ford moment for The Force Awakens. He was like, just kill me off. I never want to be asked about this role again.
I mean, I do love the face. I love the face he makes after he gets stabbed, which makes sense once you the twist. It's like, oh, god damn it.
He's like, I fell for it again.
But yes, so it turns out that this was some sort of training simulation. I don't understand. I guess there was a bunch of paid actors and it was a trick knife, maybe. I don't know how this works exactly.
I think it's one of those just like fake knives that you sort of stab in and the blade sort of disappears into the handle.
Yeah. Also, we see the footage that we just saw in the movie on a screen, which means that there was actually a cameraman in there filming Bond doing all of this contextually within the movie.
Which makes sense, actually, because how many films do you see, like, the government camera's footage is watching it and it's just, like, the movie footage?
But yes, this is where we meet M, or third M, technically, I guess. Young, brash M.
Yeah, this asshole.
Asshole M. Yeah, this M sucks. Yeah. That's his role in this movie.
Not Never Say Never Again M enjoyers.
No, his whole deal is like he has closed down the double O's because they're a drain on the British economy.
He thinks that they're just relics and sort of just wants to use them as like teachers. They're rarely deployed, probably mostly made redundant. Yeah.
And yeah, he's still giving Bond shit for failing the simulation.
Yeah.
Because he's an asshole.
This actor's name was Edward Fox.
Oh, very good. We meet Moneypenny for like 5 seconds. They got a younger, hotter model for this movie.
I don't like this Moneypenny.
I assume that like Lois Maxwell and Desmond Llewellyn and all that just said, no, we're not doing this.
There seems to be a base, because I've been reading about Sean Connery got a lot of people to try and come in and help maybe touch this movie up in the script. Some composers and whatnot, and he actually contacted a lot of people that worked in Eon films, and a lot of them felt a sense of loyalty to Cubby Broccoli, Albert Broccoli. and was
Right,
like,
yeah, that's what I
was like,
figured.
they were like, we like you, Sean, but we find this whole thing very uncomfortable. And frankly, there's got to be a book about it somewhere. Again, our poor research just hasn't looked into it. I would be very curious.
We're going to read a book.
You know what I mean? Some have read them in a YouTube video.
Yeah.
I'd be very curious to find out how making this film affected Connery's relationship with the Bond family, if you like, because for the rest of his life he's always remembered as James Bond, and you know, even Bond actors today, Daniel Craig, they'll speak about Goldfinger, blah blah blah, but Daniel Craig is close personal friends and colleagues with Barbara Broccoli, the daughter of Albert Broccoli, who surely must have felt pretty pissed off that his Bond is now going to work for.
Yeah, he crossed party lines.
He literally crossed party lines to make the spin-off Bond one. And really, if you're going to get one, like, Connery's the one to get, right? You don't want the Lazenby spin-off,
Yeah.
you know? Come on.
Do you think he was number 2 on the list if they couldn't get Connery? Well, I guess we could call George Lazenby.
Funny you should mention this, Kyle. Because
good.
earlier I said that there was an original name for this that was Warhead something. So its actual name was like Warhead
1983 or
Warhead
whatever.
2000 AD, Kyle. That was his
Okay,
name.
great.
Now, he wanted to make another adaptation of Thunderbolt in the 90s. McClory. He wanted to make a
Right,
third,
yeah, because this one
a
didn't do as
second,
well
a
as he
second
wanted,
Thunderball
yeah.
remake, which for those keeping count would mean with 3 Thunderballs, right?
Yeah,
And guess who wanted to star in it?
George Lazenby.
Timothy Dalton,
Timothy. Oh, okay, fine.
right? And it just never happened. But the film was eventually scrapped, and that's just fascinating to me.
That's okay. Yeah, I mean, there's something about this that feels so like. This isn't like sticking it to the man or anything. This is a dude who's like really bitter and just wants his project to make money.
Yeah.
Is what it sounds like
It's starting
to
to
me.
make sense now why Octopussy opens with a "fuck you, Blofeld." You know,
Was that Octopussy or was
that's
that
Octopussy. Yeah.
For Your Eyes
No,
Only?
no, that's Octopussy.
Okay. Yeah, no, it makes a lot more sense now. But, I mean, speaking of Blofeld, we do have a Blofeld.
We do have a Blofeld. We have a Max von Blofeld.
Max von Sydow is
The
Blofeld in
three-eyed
this movie.
raven, Lor Santeca, for all you starheads out there.
Honestly, in a better movie that had more to do with Blofeld, he could have been great Blofeld.
Yeah. First facial hair Blofeld.
Yeah, he's got a big old goatee.
He's from the Mirror Universe.
Because we're continuing the trend of having absolutely no consistency whatsoever in what Blofeld looks
this
like.
is the most Eon thing this film could have done. Yeah.
This Blofeld, he has a head of hair and he has a big goatee.
But you got a cat.
Doesn't have a scar.
The
Does have a
speech he
cat,
gives to
so
the
there you
UN
go.
is quite good, though. It's quite menacing. And then he just sort of disappears from the movie. He's like, okay, bye.
Yeah, he's not actually the main villain. He contacts our main villain on a screen and says, "Hello, main villain. You're going to be the villain for the rest of
Yeah,
this movie."
you're working on my behalf.
I should have noted this down. His name is Largo, which was also the name of number 2 in Thunderball, but they have a different first name, which is confusing.
You know, you got to change some stuff. This man's name is Maximilian.
Maximilian Largo, and noticeably he's younger than Largo was in Thunderball, and doesn't have an eye patch, which is very
He
distressing.
would have benefited from an eye patch.
Yeah, so that's our 2 main villains. We meet both of them in this scene. One of them is Largo, who's the sort of big, bad tech billionaire guy. I don't know.
He likes watching women through one-way mirrors.
Yeah, our usual Bond villain type of, like, he's a rich guy who's evil,
Yeah.
right? We've seen this guy
He would
before.
do very well as, like, a snivelling ass in, like, a Pierce Brosnan Bond era film.
Our other villain is number 12.
Number 12.
Is, Fatima Blush is her name. Who, there was also a lady henchman in Thunderball. I don't know if it was the same character and same name, but it's the same, similar role,
Yeah.
except this lady is twice as insane.
I think this Fatima, this number 12's got more spunk, more...
I
Yeah.
like her. I think she's actually quite
So yeah, I
compelling.
enjoy her as well.
But truly because she is batshit insane.
You need someone to hold your attention in a film like this where you know that it's not going to
Yeah.
be a mile a minute.
Yeah, well, okay, we're going to bring this up a lot, but there is, like, this is a remake of Thunderball, and, like, in some ways I think it's better than Thunderball and makes slightly more sense, and in other ways you're like, well, I'm just watching the same
I
movie
thought
again.
we were maybe going to save this for the end, but why don't we just kind of get it out the way right now? So for the record, what was your take on Thunderball? What was your whole film take? Thumb up, thumb down, thumb middle?
I don't think I remember being pretty bored for most of Thunderball. Right. If I recall our podcast correctly, I think that my main takeaway was that I found the movie quite boring.
Is that your opinion of Never Say Never Again?
No, I think I enjoyed this slightly more than Thunderball.
Okay. Now,
I think there's a lot of stuff that's like just slightly less convoluted.
I think famously have said that I was looking forward to watching Thunderball. And then I believe when we watched it for this, I was like, nah, this is the underwater segments of Thunderball feel like you're watching like a stunt show underwater and not really watching like a film. Like it's all...
You're watching a tech demo.
It's all very technically amazing and it's all very, they executed that very well and it was, it was all lovely. But it's just kind of not entertaining. I think the underwater stuff in this film is done better.
It's done better and there's less of it.
There's less of it, yeah. I think this film's version of the underwater stuff, where it's just trying to be a tech demo, is the video game segment.
We'll get to that, yeah.
I actually, so I've heard forever, Never Say Never Again is an awful film. Rubbish. And Thunderball's no better, but this is rubbish. I actually also think maybe I enjoyed this film more.
I think here's the thing with this movie. I wanted it to either be terrible, because then it would be like really like, well, that's what happens when you go against the canon, it's
you
all,
get what you deserve.
It's all terrible and it's a train wreck, right? You get what you deserve. Or I wanted it to be secretly amazing and be like, well, this makes sense why Connery came back for this one, because there was clearly such a great idea for this movie. The truth is that this movie is a perfectly average Bond movie.
Yeah, like if this was an Eon film, we would just kind of move on past it. The thing that makes it...
Yeah, it's...
The behind-the-scenes story of this film is more interesting than the film itself.
Yeah, this is basically equivalent to the quality of Octopussy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, actually. I think this film, and this will sound strange, this film solidified for me that I definitely am more of a Connery head than a Moore fan.
Oh yeah, Connery still has it.
Yeah, Connery's amazing in this, relative to the bounds of him being James Bond. I mean, like, he's not phoning it in this film. He's not here for the paycheck, even though that's pretty much why he's here.
No, he feels perfectly consistent with the old movies.
Yeah, there's a line that M gives in that first briefing where, Bond says something to M along the lines of, I've done more teaching than doing in these recent years and all that, and he's basically, it feels like for legal reasons they can't acknowledge his previous career, but it's kind of going in with
well, also they can't, because Thunderball was one of his movies, and they're doing the same story again.
But like
it's supposed to imply, yes, that this is the old
this
Bond,
is the return of Sean Connery. A bit like how Lazenby can say it didn't happen to the other guy, though that film can legally reference its past. This film is just kind of hoping the audience get it. Like, if this was your first Connery film, you're very lost,
It's a sliding doors moment.
Yeah, it's a slight. You're correct, 100%. Though obviously, for things that happen later on, there's no way this could be a continuation because certain things are just too different.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we shall get there. Bond is back in the field. He still hasn't had a briefing on what's going on, but he's back in the field.
Well, no, like they send him to like a spa retreat, a health clinic, because he eats purely whiskey and steak.
White bread.
And they're like, Bond, you have to, and white bread. And they're like, Bond, you have to go to this health clinic to get on a better diet.
They say, Bond, you need to cut this out, and he says, okay, I'll cut out the white bread.
Yeah, because they do a bit at the start of this movie of like, oh, Bond, he's getting up there, he's getting too old for this stuff.
Yeah, they do that when he first arrives at the health clinic. They look at his car and they're like, look at this is an old beauty, does it still work? And he's like, she's still, she's still in it, she can still do it. All these sort of comments that I know in my thing here, I'm like, I hope this isn't going to be the whole movie. If this was 2 hours of like, Bond's an old bugger, but he's still worth it, it would get really old, actually. I'm happy, if you pardon the pun.
It would. It's mostly just for this early
sequence. Which I'm fine with, actually. Thank God they didn't draw that out longer than this podcast is drawing out the start of this film.
Okay, yeah, let's... Because, yeah, as I say, this is all the same as Thunderball. So, same as Thunderball, he sees the guy who's, like, Domino's brother. Yep. Except in this... in Thunderball, it was so convoluted because they'd murdered and replaced Domino's brother. And I remember this was a whole confusing detail, whereas in this movie they do what I said in our podcast, which is they're just blackmailing the actual her brother instead of replacing him with a surgery doppelganger.
The President of the United States eyeball?
Yes. Yes, they've implanted a clone of the president's eyeball so that he can do
He
this
can use
thing
a
on the
retina
submarine.
scan to remove dummy warheads from test missiles in a submarine and put active nuke warheads in them. Because that's just the thing the president can do.
It's a thing that only the president can do, apparently.
Yeah, crucially, it's a thing only the president can do.
Also, the computer says, have a nice day after doing that. It's like...
Now,
which I thought was funny. It's like, oh, the dummy missiles have been loaded with nuclear warheads.
this
have a
reminds
nice
me
day.
of the computer from Vulcan in Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, where it keeps asking Spock, how do you feel? And he doesn't know how to answer it, and it just keeps repeating the question, like it's getting more frustrated with him. You know? He's like, I don't understand the question. Anyway, we could talk about Star Trek 4, but that's not what we're here to do.
Yeah.
Bond is up to shenanigans in the hotel. Number 12 sees Bond with a night vision camera, because why was he snooping outside of Domino's brother's window?
Well, he has spy senses.
Yeah, he's spider sense.
Doesn't he? He's like, he has spy senses that some espionage is happening. Yeah. There is a great gag in this where like the nurse comes into his room with his food of like hippie shit, of like grain,
porridge,
beans and stuff like this. Yeah. And so he opens up his suitcase and it's just full of like
caviar
vodka and little biscuits and cheese and caviar.
He's got a big bottle of Absolute vodka. Good for Bond. He's like, oh, I have everything I need right here, you know. And the woman's like, oh, I couldn't be in here, I'll lose my job. And he's like, my reputation's at stake too, don't you think? You know, it's...
Yes. Once again, and I think I said this a bit more, Connery even, and as you get up there, he has so much more like sexual energy than Moore does.
So much. Like when Moore says that he played it like a lover, I can see it, but he plays it like a romantic lover. Connery plays it like a sleazebag in the best way.
Yeah, Connery is DTF.
Yeah, always, all times, at any possible moment. So they send a henchman to kill Bond, just because that's what you got to do.
Yes.
And this is the Kryptonian man from earlier on, and he knocks out a porter, and this porter, Kyle, is the bartender from the Leaky Cauldron in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. This is Tom, the bartender. He has like
good.
approximately 5 seconds of facial screen time in this film, and I immediately knew who he was.
I'm glad I did not recognize him.
Listen,
so
why, Kyle, a
went up for me
normal
there.
person wouldn't. A normal
I recognise some of the other. I recognise the pretty nerdy one later on in the movie, so you give me credit for
when
that.
I read
one
your
at
notes,
least,
I was so shocked you got it, because when he first shows up, you didn't get it right, and then I was like,
it took me a while.
You missed it, and then later I was like, oh fuck, I was hoping I could bring that up.
We are, of course, talking about Mr. B.
Yeah, yeah, this is exactly what we're talking about. Yeah, but lots of fighting noises. There's gags about it being, covered by football noises.
Oh, this fight lasts forever.
They basically do a lap
this
of the
fight
whole
goes
set.
through every single room in the spa. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I think it's the only way they felt they could keep this fight engaging. But then Bond blinds him with a beaker of some fluid, Kyle.
Yeah, they end up in the lab, and he there's a beaker of some fluid, and he throws it in
it
his
looks
face.
like it blinds him, and
at first I thought this was some sort of acid or something, because this guy's like has an immediate
and he covers
reaction
his
to
face
it.
and he falls down to the ground and he's unconscious. It turns out it's
No. What happens is he falls back into the the shelf full of glass beakers, and then they all stab into his back and kill him.
Oh right, okay. Well, Kyle, what's in this beaker?
Well, Nathan, it's James Bond's urine
It's
sample.
007. It's Sean Connery's. He's real. He'd done it himself on set. He's a method actor. it's his own piss. Just brilliant. It's a good callback. It happens so quickly at the start when he arrives at the health clinic, but it's a nice callback.
But Nathan M is fucking furious. Do you know how much of his budget he had to spend on repairing that spa?
Oh, I know, the whole thing is renovated now, doesn't it? Oh, shut up, M.
Yeah, I don't know why they decided that M in this movie should just be like an annoying asshole, but that's his deal in this movie.
I've never disliked M in my life apart from in this film. My goodness.
Okay, usually M hates Bond, but he's usually more subtle about it. He's like, well, this guy, I don't like Bond, I don't like his unprofessionalism, but he does get the job done, so, Yeah,
but this guy's just open, non-funny, non-suave, non-British stiffer Philip contempt. This guy's an anti-Bond snowflake.
He really is.
He hates Bond and everything Bond stands for. And listen, in the real world, I'm sure we'd all be on Team M, right? But this is a film, and I'm on Team 007, right?
Uh-huh.
So
well, after
we see
M,
Jack.
Yeah.
Domino's brother on a little drive, and Fatima appears beside him in a neighbouring car.
Yes,
And
okay. Well, she was also in the hotel, and she was doing like this weird dummy mummy nurse stuff with him.
Yeah, she was the one that like basically convinced Jack to use the president's eye clone to replace warheads.
Yeah, so like he hasn't really been blackmailed. He's been like seduced, I guess, is how I would read this.
Yeah, well, in my notes here, I've got you silly fool, Jack.
Yes. So yeah, after he's escaping from the military base, she drives up beside them and they're doing like the haha, we're doing great stuff, flirty, like, oh, we're so cool. And then she just chucks a snake onto his lap and he immediately crashes and dies.
He immediately goes up a one-tire directive ramp, flips and goes into a brick wall, and then the car explodes or something. No, she explodes the car with a bomb later, but she goes and picks up the snake first that she threw. Yeah, F Jack, you silly fool. The missiles have now launched from the submarine and are on track to...
they launch from a plane and they're like self-guided missiles, I think. Something like that.
The missiles themselves look like submarines. They're really weirdly painted in.
It's a weird effect.
Spectre have simply game-changing Cold War-ending technology here that could be used to instigate world peace immediately. Spectre, they have a fishing boat that's supposed to track these nuclear warheads, Kyle.
Yes.
And then also safely disarm them and land them into the ocean without hurting
I don't know if
anyone.
it's Largo's boat, which I think they call like the UFO or the spaceship or something like that.
Right, okay. Well, regardless, Largo has the ability to land nuclear warheads in flight safely and without damaging anything. It is, frankly, an astounding feat that he should be using that. He's like, I can completely disarm your nuclear arsenal at any point. Don't test me, give me your money, or you're never going to be able to retaliate in the event of a nuclear strike. He ensures world peace. Tony Stark would love this, Kyle. That's a film.
Okay. Is this more or less convoluted than Thunderball, where they have the fake Jack steal the plane with the missiles on them and then dive the plane into the ocean, where it then sinks, and then he kills all of the crew with gas, and then they come down and they kill Jack, and then they have to take the submarine down to get the missiles and then bring it back to the boat?
This is more convoluted than that. That seems more wordy and more drawn out, but like this is like, you have a technology to safely land nuclear missiles and we're just going to scoot over that.
Within the language of the movie, this is less convoluted. It's like, oh sure, they stole the missiles, fine.
Yeah, I suppose it helps with the pacing a little bit, maybe. Now, we get an underwater bit here, and I was like, oh no. But it's actually quite quick. It's just them removing the warheads.
I did want to say, also, Largo, he seems like a nice boss to his henchmen, because he comes in, he's like, oh, morning, Jack. Oh, you got that report for me?
Yeah, listen, Largo cares about HR, so we all about him. Now, quite like how we are 38 minutes into this podcast at the moment, 36 minutes into the film is when Bond is finally briefed on what's happening.
Yes.
And he's told about the missing nukes and how we got to get them back, 007. It's imperative. Well, yeah. The Blofeld has shown up in the UN and threatened everyone.
Yeah, he showed up, and then the UN are all shouting the British crew are for some reason running this meeting, because they always are in these movies.
Yeah, but then like they turn around and start lambasting the American general that lost the nukes.
Yeah. And then one of the British guys is like, for God's sake, we have to call in the double O's. We have to reinstate the double O's to solve this.
It's a real Johnny English moment.
Well.
Now, this is where we see Largo's cuck room. we cut to him in his little DJ booth.
Yeah, so he has his private office, and then one of the walls folds out, and it's a one-way mirror into a dance room.
Into a dance studio, and Domino's in there. His niece?
No, just his girlfriend in this movie, I think.
His girlfriend, right.
It was his niece in the original movie, but I think in this movie she's just a lady.
Right, okay. Now, he's like watching her like stretch and stuff from behind the mirror with her dance teacher, and then like we're like, what's happening here? And then like we cut and he just walks into the room all normal, like he was never doing that. Yeah. Why? What?
It's Very just bizarre. To establish that he's a weird pervert. I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah. So he gives her like the Tear of Allah, like a little pendant.
Tears of Allah. It's like a necklace pendant thing.
Yeah,
yes.
And now the film will reveal later on that they have GPS coordinates on them that tell you where a specific base is for Largo and Spectre. But they then have a quick bit of banter and a back and forth, and she says, what would you do if I left you? And he just says, I'll slit your throat.
Uh-huh.
Which is just, he says it so, it's a very chilling moment, actually. It does set him up as a threat. Now,
Yeah.
Kale, this is where I realised that this is Vicky Vale from Batman 1989.
Yes, it's Kim
This is Kim
Basinger.
Basinger.
Yes.
Yeah. Which just, I didn't see it the whole time until the end of the scene where we got a close-up on her. I was like, oh my god. It's Vicky Vale. Now we cut to Q Branch, don't we?
We cut to Q Branch. We have a different Q. We don't have Colonel Boothroyd, our usual man, Desmond Llewellyn. Instead, we
a London
have
taxi driver.
a London taxi driver named Algernon.
Algernon.
Algernon, yes.
Yeah, Q is like a state of mind here. Everyone here is Q. This is Q Branch.
It's
They
Q
acknowledge that
Branch,
it's
yeah.
Q.
Well, there's only one guy here, and he's complaining that because the double O's aren't in business anymore, he's basically doesn't have any work. He doesn't get to make all his silly gadgets anymore because of budget issues.
He says it's too cold. You can never get the parts, and there's always a strike when you do. Yeah,
he's having a big whinge.
Yeah, he's having a big old whinge. Now, Kyle, I thought that the name Algernon sounded like a planet in Star Trek. Just a
Sure you
made-up
did,
planet. Like,
yes.
set course for Algernon 4. Right, I just
Yep.
made that up in my notes, right, as a little bit. Now, Algernon actually is a type of flower, Kyle.
Yes. Flowers for Algernon, yeah.
Now, what is quite interesting, Kyle, is that actually in the universe of Star Trek, there does exist the Treaty of Algernon, 1N. Now, I know you know this, Kyle.
Of course, yes.
The Treaty of Algernon is the treaty between the Federation and the Romulan Star Empire. And it states that any incursion into the Romulan Federation neutral zone, the buffer zone, a DMZ, if you will, between them, any side that goes in, the other side can interpret it as an act of war.
Yes.
It also prohibits any Starfleet or Federation starship from being equipped with cloaking devices.
This comes up quite often in Star Trek The Next Generation.
It comes up quite a lot. Also comes up in DS9 because the Romulans lend the
Yes.
Starfleet a cloaking device for the USS Defiant, only to be used in the Gamma Quadrant, and
only
it
for
first
Romulan
explicitly used under
observating,
Romulan
yeah.
supervision.
But then they just
Yes.
stopped doing that, yeah.
It's too much money to get the actress to play Seska to come in and be a sub-commander all the time. This cast is big enough. We have a Cardassian, a Taylor here,
Mm-hmm.
Now, after I made the joke about set course for Algernon 4, in my notes reading up on the Treaty of Algeron, there is mentioned in an episode of TNG Algernon 4, or Algeron 4, which is possibly where the treaty was signed, it's speculated.
Makes sense.
So I've gone from just hearing this one name of Algernon, or Taxi Driver Q, to Romulan Star Empire, Treaty Federations, cloaking devices, and a planet. And I just felt it was important to bring this up.
No, I'm
because
glad
I
you
found
did.
it in my
Very good,
research, and I
yes.
would be darned if it was going to go unnoticed. They have a nickname for Q, don't they, Kyle?
Do they have a nickname for Q?
They call him Algae.
Algae, yes. Well, this Q and this Bond seem to get along better than Desmond Llewellyn Q ever gets along with Bond. They
Yeah,
sort of
this-
treat each other
this-
like old friends.
Yeah, this Q is kind of like ready for Bond. He's like, let's do it together. You want
Yeah,
to
I
mess some
kinda-
stuff up? I want to
yeah.
help you mess some stuff up.
I kind of like this take on Q. It's a very different take on Q, but I kind of enjoyed his
Yes.
little scene.
Yeah, so do I. He's only in this one bit, but yeah, he gets some play here.
Gives him a laser watch, he gives him an explosive pen. He says, I hope we're going to have some gratuitous sex and violence now that you're here.
Yep. And Bond says, me too, Algae, me too. Now, what I found quite funny was that as Algae hands Bond the laser watch, he takes off Bond's real watch and just breaks it.
Yes, he just
And
throws
Bond
it on the
looks
ground.
at it
Yeah.
like Bond looks at it quite horrified. He's like, "What? Why?"
It's like, that was an expensive Casio watch. You just threw it on the ground.
Now he asks Bond where he's off to, and Bond says he's off to the Bahamas, and Algae responds with, "Lucky bloody you," you know. And then
good.
this is it. We cut. Bye bye, Algae. We're now
Yes.
in the Bahamas scale. We're in Nassau specifically. And this is where we're going to meet up with our contact in Nassau for the British.
Yes. Well, Blondie does some flirting with a local lady because, of course, he does. Some
Yeah,
random
he says-
fisherman.
He says, "You'll catch me later," to her.
But then he's interrupted in his flirting by, oh my goodness, it's freaking Rowan Atkinson is in this movie.
Rowan Atkinson running across the port yard screaming, "Mr. Bond! Mr. Bond!" And then he gets up to him and says, "I'm bad at all this spy stuff. I just I've never really done it before. I took the long way. I'd have been quicker. I just didn't want to make sure I get followed. And Bond says, oh, so that's why you shouted my name from across the port? He went, oh, did I? Oh, God.
It's his famous Bond character, Nigel Smallfawcett.
Which I just love that we're finally getting some names at the expense of men.
Well, okay, I looked into this because I was trying to figure out where this fits in Rowan Atkinson's career. This movie came out like a few months after he started Blackadder. So this is early Rowan Atkinson. This is pre-Bean Mr. Rowan Atkinson.
Yeah, I knew it was pre-Bean Rowan Atkinson. I wasn't sure where it fell in the Blackadder canon.
Yeah, so Blackadder is like only a few episodes have come out at this point of Blackadder.
It would have been very good if they just like dropped the facade and called him Nigel Littledick.
Nah, Smallfawcett is classier.
No, it was much more subtle. Much more subtle.
Nathan, I honestly loved him. I thought he was great.
Yeah, he is pretty good, isn't he?
He's just so charming.
Yeah, I've never seen him. I've never seen Never Again, right? But I've never even seen clips of him in this, and it's wonderful because like he's walking with Bond and he's giving him the down low of what's happening here and where things are, where it's all kicking off, And he says, "Well, I'll head back to the consulate and I'll be in touch with you," And then Bond's like, "You might want to make use of the natural cover." And then Nigel Smallfawcett proceeds to like bunny hop in and out of cover behind the pillars in the building,
yes.
and just runs away.
He's a truly terrible spy, yes, but
he makes Bond look like a world class spy.
So yeah, Bond, as per his usual investigation skills, heads immediately to the bar.
Absolutely, he gets a dry martini.
And he spies, I didn't even recognise her at first, but he spies Fatima Blush doing some like acrobatic water skiing.
Yeah, exactly. And she sprays him on the pie bass.
I don't know if she did that on purpose. I guess she did do that on purpose.
It's got to have been on purpose.
Yeah.
And then when she eventually lands at the bar, she's like, "Oh, I got your suit all wet." And I said, "No, actually, James's suit is still completely bone dry. I don't know what you're talking about, because we've clearly cut here and he's washed it off and put a new suit on."
Yes, but his martini is still dry.
His martini's still dry. I thought that was a wonderful line. I got your suit all wet, but my martini's still dry, which is just great.
Yes.
There's some blurry close-ups here. Like, I wasn't quite sure what was happening here.
Yeah, they do, like, the Star Trek focusing on a woman. It's all, like, super out of focus. Even though,
but they do it
I don't know
on,
why.
They
also do it on
them,
Bond. Yes, it's just like the camera's out of focus.
And it never happens again for the rest of the film. So I think they were having a bad filming day here. And then we end up in a fishing boat, or to go on the mission to go down to a sunken ship.
Yes. And she's like pretending to be, or maybe she is like an amateur scuba diver, and she invites Bond along on this adventure.
Yeah,
this expedition.
They hook up, Kyle. Will they have time to kill en route? And then we get like a sex montage intercut with
underwater imagery.
Yeah.
Yeah, they go a little bit raunchier on the sex scene than the Eon films do, I will say.
Yeah. Well, this is where I outright say in my notes here that Connery looks a million times better than Moore. She movies like running around India like a grandpa with like his jumper and all that,
They do make a point of it too, because he takes his shirt off and it's like, "Oh, you're also well equipped, Mr. Bond."
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, I think it's a valid comment. I think Sean Connery looks brilliant in this.
Oh no, he looks good.
I've got the vivid image of Moore in the second half of Octopussy walking around Octopussy's lair with the trousers and the top
the
zip,
vest, yeah,
the vest, yeah. It's like, God, you look like you belong like an Agatha Christie novel.
I will say there is one moment slightly later in this movie where Connery does look really old to me, and we'll certainly get to that.
Brilliant. But, okay, I can't wait for it.
But yeah, so he hooks up, and then when they're down diving in this boat just for fun, I think she knocks out his. No, she places a tracking device on him, swims away, and the tracking device is some sort of shark lure.
Apparently, you said this is a robot shark. I don't think it is. I think it's a real shark.
No, it's like it's like it has some sort of mind control device on the shark, because you see on the fin there's like this sort of like metal like thing attached to the shark.
Oh, see, I didn't note that at all. I must have looked away at the wrong moment.
Uh-huh.
Now, I enjoy this shark chase, Kyle.
Uh-huh.
I think that he keeps going into these tight little nooks and crannies, little holes in the ship, and the shark just keeps falling through. And even as like a act of stunt work, which I know I was giving Thunderbolt shit for just being stunt work and not really entertaining, I think that's really cool, because I can't tell if the shark's real or not actually from a production level. It's getting super close to the stunt swarm, whatever it is, and then he uses the oxygen tank to sort of bubble up the air to get the shark confused and get away, and he comes through the door, the sunken ship's little bulkhead door. It's just good stuff. I enjoy this.
See, I get that, but also I think the shark looks so cute in this scene. You just see its big silly eyes, and it's like, there's something about the way that the shark is shot. It just looks so unthreatening, and just like the shark just wants a big hug.
I see. Well, I always think sharks are quite implicitly scary because you literally have no expression. That shark, with the exact same expression on its face, could rip Bond in two, and its eyes roll over white in its head as it does it, right? I think sharks are... I've swam with sharks. They're not this caliber of shark. I think they're wonderful creatures. I think they're also very scary creatures.
I've just been playing too much Marvel Rivals. I'm just channeling Jeff.
You think the shark's about to go da 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 ba 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 ba. Yeah. Listen, don't we all wish? Don't we all wish?
But yeah, Bond, he managed to escape on a fishing line.
Yeah, he just sees a fishing line underwater and attaches himself to it.
And it's, of course, the lady from before. And he says, well, you did say you'd catch me later.
And this
Amazing
is Nicole,
work, Bond.
isn't it?
Is that her name? I never did her name.
This is the French one?
Yes.
Yeah, this person's name is Nicole. Yeah, so it is great work from Bond there to say, you did say you'd catch me later. Yeah. They then return to shore, and Fatima thinks job's well done, and then she sees Bond on the shoreline and proceeds to just completely flip out and goes to bomb his hotel room.
Because she's bonkers, yeah. She is channeling Joker energy in this movie, I would say.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Or at the very least, like, big Harley Quinn energy.
Yeah, absolutely. So she's got the red and black on in this scene for it.
Yes.
So Bond and Nicole decide to pick a room to go back to be closer together. And they choose Nicole's room. And then from her balcony, you can see Bond's balcony just explode.
Yes. And
she's like, looks like we made the right decision.
And then they just get back to it.
Your place or mine? Yeah, exactly. And at this point, Fatima probably seems quite justified. She's like, well, that's the job done then.
Yes.
And then we arrive... Where do we arrive? We get in a plane, Kyle. We go to France? No?
I think America? I think we're still in the Bahamas somewhere. I don't know.
No. This airport's too big. This is like LAX or something.
I don't know. Okay, maybe we do go to France. We go somewhere where everyone has an accent.
Yeah, I think we go to France.
Okay, let's say it's France.
Takes them there. And then a man violently throws something at Bond, and Bond's like, get down, Nicole.
Yes.
And it's... Kyle, I don't know why I didn't see it coming. It's Felix Bloody Leiter. How the devil are you?
It's Felix Leiter number 6, baby.
I count him. I think this is the best Felix Leiter we've had in a long time.
This is absolutely the best Felix Leiter. This is, first of all, big note, this is Black Felix Leiter, so you don't get any points, Jeffrey, right?
Jeffrey Wright, Rush. Yeah, get fucked. This is Bernie Casey.
Yeah. Bernie Casey, who, of course, Nathan, we have to point out... is Benjamin Sisko's old friend from the Academy who joins the Maquis in Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
This is Commander Cal Hudson. Yeah, Cal Hudson. Close personal friend of Commander at the time, Benjamin Sisko. They were both the two ranking flag officers on the Cardassian-Bajoran border. He lived in the colonies with the people near the DMZ. Mm-hmm. He was the one that fell into sympathy with the human settlers against Cardassian law violations, while Sisko lived in the space station, found it a lot easier to be emotionally detached, and they had fundamental disagreements on how we should treat the DMZ and the Cardassian Treaty.
Yes.
And yeah, Cal Hudson's a fucking Maquis traitor, Bond. You mustn't trust him.
Well, I mean, also, though, he has so much more charisma than any other Felix Leiter has had so far. This guy has some presence in the scene.
Oh, yeah,
as opposed to every other Felix Leiter, which is just like a blank piece of cardboard.
I always remember the one from Goldfinger that goes to like observe him, and like and Goldfinger's like horse place.
Oh yeah,
And
he's like,
watch
oh,
him with,
Bond
like-
has it well in hand. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the binoculars. He's like, oh, Bond. He's like such a Bond fanboy. Like he wants to be Bond.
This Felix Leiter is the first one that he feels like a contemporary of Bond's. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
this Felix
I
Leiter
would
is
say
off on his
Jack
own
Lord and
missions.
I'd say Jack Lord and Doctor No could have done it as well. We just never saw him
Maybe,
again.
yeah. But yeah, this Felix Leiter actually gets involved in the action, and he feels like an equal of Bond.
Yeah, he does.
I enjoyed that.
This is where I start questioning why Nicole has become a tag-along in Mission. Surely Kim Basinger is somewhere, and then she immediately shows up because we get the shot of them on the ship.
Yes.
Yeah, and oh, hello, you're Domino, because this is the first time I think they name her in the film.
Yes, I think so, yeah. It's Largo's woman, Domino, yes.
Yeah.
Domino, she has a second name, so Domino's not a nickname. I can't remember what her second name is, though.
Bond decides to break into the spa she's having a massage in and give her a massage.
Yes, this is the exact scene where I say suddenly Sean Connery looks really old. It's when he's walking through this room full of like young women in bikinis, and here's like 50-year-old Sean Connery in a jumper walking through it. It's like, oh, this is creepy. This is weird.
I think he still looks tremendous.
Well, then, yes, he goes to give Domino a massage, and this scene is just so creepy and weird.
She's enjoying it, he's enjoying it, but he says some things that make it seem like, oh, I'm maybe enjoying this too much. Then he leaves as the actual masseuse comes in, and then she's like, where did that man go that's giving him the massage? And then he goes,
like,
oh, that
I don't know, that guy
walked
doesn't
past,
work here.
That guy doesn't work here. And she kind of looks horrified, and she giggles a bit, she smiles, she liked it a bit.
Yes, it's weird. It's very weird.
But during this massage, he sort of asks her questions about Largo, and then that's when he decides to exit, yeah.
Well, he's like, oh, that's Mr. Largo's boy, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, he also learns that she's going to a charity ball later, which I guess is relevant.
This is where Bond goes and shows up at the arcade casino.
Yes. Okay, yes. Well, first of all, he kidnaps the doorman and shoves him in a locker with a bomb in his hand, like, which is horrifying.
Yeah, he's like, there's a gyroscope in this, and if you tilt it a certain way, it will detonate, and you'll lose your hand. Stay in here and be a good chap. And then,
her guy was just doing his job.
Yeah, Bond comes in, looks suave in his tuxedo, he sees the Baccarat table and all that, and this is what a traditional Bond movie would do. They would play the game, but he doesn't. He follows Domino into a fucking arcade where everyone's fancy dressed.
It's so strange. It's all these like fancy upper class people playing these like kids arcade games
Pac-Man
in this fancy
Space
ballroom.
Invader and stuff.
Yeah. It's so weird. I guess because this is the 80s. I don't know. Maybe in the 80s this was like the new shit. So you do have it in the casino, right?
This is like dressing up all fancy in a ballroom for like a Apple Vision Pro event. Yeah.
You go into the other room and everyone's playing Animal Crush. Candy Crush on their phone.
Yeah, exactly right.
But yeah, we don't actually play the arcade games because Largo comes up to him and says, Ashley Bond, I've invented this game that I want to play with you.
And it's like Asteroid Battleship Miner.
Okay, we have to. I know we're dragging this podcast on so long, but I have to talk about this game. So,
okay,
it's called Domination. And it's some sort of game where you shoot lasers at countries of the world and control different, like, polygons of France or whatever. And you play this game for real money. But also, there's this second mechanic where you can launch nuclear missiles at each other. And specifically, if you look at it, it's the same missiles that he stole because he's just really rubbing that in. It's the same, like, model of missile.
Oh my god, it's totally not just because they did the wireframe schematic.
Yeah, so you can launch, but you can also put up a shield to stop the launch. And also this game will like hurt you somehow for holding onto the thing. It gives you electric shocks.
It's like if you don't concede, if you give up, you'll forfeit, but you'll be in less pain. Or if you fight to the bitter end, you'll be in more pain.
And the computer will tell you like, oh, you're getting into the danger levels of damage.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, if you let go of the controls, then you immediately forfeit the match, yes.
Like a holodeck program with the safeties disabled.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, yeah. Well, this is also all in like a big holographic display in the middle of this room.
This reminded me of the game that Data played against the War Games commander in the episode of TNG.
Yes! Oh, it's exactly like that, where you do like the thing with your fingers to control.
Yeah, they go, yeah. Remember Pulaski's like, you can beat him, Data. You can beat him. Yeah, and he kicks his ass. It's the exact same thing without the pain threshold, isn't it?
Yes. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Anyway, this scene goes
That's
on
exactly
for fucking
what it
ever.
Oh yeah, it does. This is the bit where I say this is this film's underwater segments from Thunderball. I have it in
Yeah,
my notes.
because-
I'm like, this is bizarre.
Bond keeps losing, and then Largo keeps introducing new rules and being like, oh no, but play again, Bond, because I'm a creepy weirdo and I want to beat you and prove my manliness.
Yeah, but Bond
But then-
has been beaten a couple of times in the lesser rounds, and then this one, Bond just wins.
Yeah, he just wins easily because he's figured out how to play now, I guess.
Yeah, and it's like what over $300,000, and Largo's ready to write him the check, and then he says, "I'll settle for a dance with Domino," because Domino's an object, of course.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah.
But he's
then-
like, oh, okay, right. I see you're. We'll see if you're a sore winner as much as you're a sore, sore loser as much as you're a sore winner, Mister Bond, or something like that. And then he says, "Well, I guess we'll never know because I never lose." Bond, you lost the first 2 rounds of that fucking game. What are you on about, my guy?
It's all or nothing rules, right? You don't lose until you give up.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Anyway, he does a tango during which he tells Domino that her brother is dead.
I know.
Just says
Again,
don't-
we've dragged on a bit, but the dance is very good. I think Sean Connery done a good job with the dancing. He's
Yeah,
like,
sure. Well, I wanted to point out that there's a scene where Largo is talking to Fatima, and he's like,
Yeah.
okay, you get one more chance to kill Bond. You fucked this up multiple times, but you get one more chance. And she is so happy about this. She does like a little happy dance while she's coming down the stairs, like, I get to kill James Bond. Woohoo!
Yeah, she does. She does do that. Absolutely, you're right. Well, on the way out, Bond decides to go back into the cupboard to pay his respects to the bouncer that he's had in there with the gyroscope Bond, and he just picks it up like it's just like a cigarette or cigar case.
Yeah,
He goes-
probably is, yeah.
Yeah, and goes like, "Oh, thank you, old chap," and then just shuts the door on him, and the guy just faints. What a hard
poor
night
guy.
that man's had.
Yeah.
Bond makes it back to the hotel, and there's Nicole in the swimming pool, turned face down, in her dress and her gown, dead. Nicole.
F. Nicole. But then he manages to catch, like, well, Fatima is, like, escaping, but she wants Bond to follow her. I guess
Yeah.
she knows that Bond has a motorbike stuck in its styrofoam.
Yeah, oh,
I
yeah,
don't know
that
how
was
else to
what- that was
explain
what-
this.
That was what Felix met them with at the airport.
Yes. He has, like, he opens, like, this big styrofoam thing, and it splits in half, and there's a big fancy motorbike in it.
I quite like this motorbike chase.
Sure, yeah, no, it's very good, yeah. I just don't understand what Fatima's plan is.
To lure him away somewhere quiet and murder him out of prying eyes.
Well, specifically, they force him to get into a box truck in a tunnel, but then he, like, ramps out, and then he's chasing her, and they end up in this, like, side alley.
This
And
all
then-
ends up to say that Fatima is hit with some sort of exploding pen ammo and violently
Well,
explodes.
No, Nathan, you can't skip past the part where she forces him to write down with the pen on this scrap piece of paper that she was the best fuck he's ever had.
I was hoping I could skip past that, actually, Kel.
No, we have to talk about that because this is the conflicted reason why this is the excuse in the movie for why he can bring out a pen without it being suspicious. And she hands him a
you're
bit of
right.
paper
You're
so
right.
that he can write down to say that she was the best fuck he's ever had. Because she's batshit insane.
Yeah, she has the I've on a hump a lot.
Yeah,
You know?
her hair at this point is all gone like massive and frilly, and she has like a deranged smile on her face.
She's real third act Cruella de Villing it.
Yes.
And then when she blows up because of the pen being an exploding pen that Q gave Bond, he then
Yeah, it's on a
writes down-
delay.
he-
It's not
he
supposed
then
to be on a
says-
delay, but it is.
He says, "Not perfected yet,"
Yes.
because of the pen not being perfected. But also, I think
And then Felix later walks out from behind the slows. Oh, I was here the whole time. I just wanted to see what you would do.
yeah, because the cops are outside as well, and you got to get away because the police aren't in on all this. You know,
Yeah,
And
so
they
they take
get
off all their
outside-
clothes and pretend to be just some locals
French
working out.
French local cyclists. I note here that
Yes.
Bond respects the highway codes as a cyclist. See how he gestures to the left arm as he goes to turn left. Good
Mm-hmm.
for Bond. He didn't have to do that.
Okay, yeah. Well, okay, then another scene that baffles me comes up, because Felix and Bond, they sort of do an underwater dive to break into Largo's boat.
Yeah.
And then Bond, he climbs up into the boat, and then there's a guy waiting for him with like a dressing gown and says, "Oh, Mr. Largo's waiting for you." So Bond's been caught.
Yep, Bond
then-
has been caught.
And then Largo just says, "Oh, enjoy my ship." And then just
Yeah,
leaves
have fun.
Bond with no
Yeah.
guards.
He takes him down to his like cut
secret
studio.
control room. Yeah.
Yeah, with Domino down there, and then Bond turns up the music because he knows the room is bugged, and Largo's in the cut glare listening through the one-way mirror and can't hear things. The music's really loud. And then
It's
like he just goes into the room and kisses Domino or something. Am I mixing that?
well,
up?
he somehow he knows that Largo is watching, or he has a suspicion that Largo's watching everything he does. So he tells Domino, "I'm going to kiss you, and you have to pretend that you like it."
Yeah, you're right.
Because he's trying to make Largo feel like a cuck, so he comes storming into the room so that he can then trigger the fire alarm and break into his cuck room.
Absolutely. The cut glare is going to be exposed once and for all.
Yes. And then he's just watching as Largo smashes up the dance studio from the cuck room. He's like, wow, this worked way better than I thought it would.
And then this boat is taking us to Largo's fortress castle.
Yes, he has some sort of fortress castle in North Africa.
And Bond gets captured again and tied up here.
Yes, because now Largo decides that now that he's been cucked, now he's going to murder Bond. And he also takes Domino into captivity as well.
He's going to sell Domino as a slave.
Yes!
To North African slavers.
Yes, that's so bizarre, yes.
He then decides to tell Bond that the first bomb is apparently in Washington under the president's feet.
Yeah, Bond asks him, like, well, since I'm going to die anyway, why don't you just tell me where the bombs are? And he's like, oh, sure. One of them's under the president's feet in America. And then he goes to the other one, he's like, almost got me. I'm not going to tell you where the second one is.
50% of a fail. Oh. Yeah. But Bond cuts his way out with the trusty laser watch Q gave him, doesn't he?
Yes.
And then he pretends he hid out the window and a guard comes in. The guard leans out over the window and Bond grabs him and throws him into the ocean and Bond gets back in. All fairly standard Bond fare stuff.
Yes. But then he has to rescue Domino from this horde of slavers. Indeed
he does. And this is the bit where I think this film turns into Indiana Jones because we're horse riding around and everything.
He manages to steal a horse, he gets Domino, but they close the gates, so eventually he ends up just jumping the horse off a cliff into the water.
At least the horse lives.
Well, yes. Very good.
And then Felix Leiter and a US submarine or something show up to save the day and let Bond and Domino come to save them.
They start shelling the castle, yes.
Yeah, they start shelling the castle. Very surprising.
But yeah, so they're like, oh, well, Largo escaped. What do we do now? And for some reason, Largo left the Tears of Allah with Domino, even though at some point he stripped and changed her into a nightgown for the slave auction. So he could have easily taken that necklace back, but he just left it with her.
He
just forgot about it.
He's a cuck. He wanted to get caught.
It seems like he did, yes. But yeah, they discover that this
we should
necklace...
know this is where the US Army are able to locate and take control of the first nuke in Washington.
Yes, off screen. They're just like, we did it.
Off screen, we did it. There's only one bomb left.
Well, specifically, M calls him and it's like, oh, well, the Yanks, they managed to pull it off, Bond, and if you manage to get the other one, I'll sit down for lunch with you.
Yeah. I continue to hate this M.
And Bond is like, oh, that sounds lovely, sir.
He says, oh, that's a thrilling offer. Yeah. And yeah, the Tear of Allah, and this is where the Domino's pendant and Tear of Allah has a map located of Largos's base. And it's near his oil fields because he runs an oil business.
Yes.
And it takes him right into a cove.
And then Bond and Felix take some jet pods from the American submarine.
Yeah, they launch missiles and then sort of safely land, hover land onto land. And they get
There's
out
absolutely
the
no
gear.
reason for this. It's just a thing
I'm pretty sure in You Only Live Twice, they just launch Bond out of a torpedo tube.
That's true, yeah. That's when they fake his death and all that, yeah.
Could they not have just launched him out of a torpedo tube here? Why do they need to launch him up into the sky like a fucking helicopter?
And then make a huge spectacle to all these local villagers.
Yeah, and then have him get in scuba gear and go swimming again.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense.
It's the Bond budget.
None of this makes any sense. So for some reason, Largo has taken the second nuclear missile to this underground temple.
Yeah, it's very The Mummy with Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, or like a Tomb Raider lair where you'd find
Yep.
like a skill point book.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know why he's done this. I don't know why he's planning to blow up this random chunk of North Africa where his oil fields are.
Yeah, he's insane. This is like the film is just adding stakes for the sake of adding stakes right now. It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Domino kind of disappears from the film for the next 5-10 minutes. She stays aboard
Yes.
the sub whilst Felix gets to take the reins with Bond, which is nice.
Yeah, Felix and Bond, they dive into this, and Bond sneaks into the lair, and then they have a big shootout, and Felix calls in his boys, and then they have a big gun battle with all the goons.
Yeah, everyone's shooting at each other. It's all good fun. It's all very exciting. I think Sean Connery looks wonderful here in his swim shorts, ducking and diving and roly-polying around.
But yeah, Largo managed to escape with the nuke. He's armed it and taken it underwater.
Into a
don't know
secret
where-
second chamber.
Yeah, I don't know where he's taking it. I don't know why he armed it now. Like, there is no clear explanation from the movie what his plan is at this point, other than
Does he
watch
want
the
to
world burn.
blow up his own oil fields for some reason?
Well, like, yeah, I guess we skipped past this, but the whole point of this is Spectre is holding the world ransom for money, right? That's what Blofeld gives his big speech about.
Yeah,
That's
but
what Spectre does.
Surely this would be to set the nukes off in some strategic location. Are these the only oil rigs in the world?
Yeah, again, the movie doesn't explain this at all. Not a single point does it
It's just
explain
to
what he's
send the
doing.
price of oil soaring, and the reason he bought these oil fields is for a safe place to detonate.
Maybe?
Yes, possibly. He doesn't look suicidal, but he must be doing this.
No, yeah, because he's personally escorting this nuclear missile underwater.
Yeah. Felix is kicking ass here, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Felix has
Felix
like
has
a flashbang grenade launcher.
yes. Well, after Bond gets it, they realise Bond's like, okay, now we can bring out the big guns, and so he just starts launching grenades into the place.
Yeah, well, Bond then has to leave the tunnels to then get
Yeah.
dropped via helicopter down a village
Into-
well.
Yes, which somehow leads back to Largo.
It takes back into the cave system Largo's in, which just doesn't make any sense. Why didn't you just follow
No.
Largo? No, I honestly say I'm less bored here than I am watching Thunderball at this moment.
No. None of this makes any sense, but it is exciting, so...
Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, absolutely. Now, Bond and Largo get into a big fisticuffs underwater, trying to pull each other's masks off, and at one point he takes Largo's goggles off, and it really blinds him temporarily.
Yeah, he pins Largo with the nuclear missile underwater against the wall.
Yep. But then, as Bond's going to try and disarm it, Largo gets up and he has the harpoon gun pointed right at Bond's head, and just as he's about to fire, bang! Domino to the rescue, baby.
Freaking Domino is here somehow. So, for some reason, she dived in.
She's also a good scuba diver with a couple of American.
Yeah, she's
troops,
accompanied
but,
by a couple troops. Yes.
Yeah, and then they just kind of leave Largo.
Yeah, he's dead. Yeah,
He's
whatever.
dead. Just let the fish take him. Even though it's a small contained cave they're in, it's not like this is a collectible in a future video game. You know, you find Largo's harpoon gun. It's like an exotic, and it's just a skeleton scuba swimmer. You know?
Yeah. Maybe that'll be in the James Bond game they're making. You don't know.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? It's not advertised. It's just like an open world Bond game. You go down a well, and at the bottom of the well there's a little cave, and yeah,
There's a harpoon gun in there. Yeah.
with a little man in a black and yellow scuba suit. So
The day is saved.
yeah, the day's saved, and we just kind of cut to Bond and Domino in some sort of villa, just relaxing. Domino's got one hell of a tiger swimming costume on. It makes a statement. She looks gorgeous, by the way. Kim Basinger.
It's Kim Basinger. Yeah.
And then someone breaches the perimeter, Kyle.
A deadly secret agent. Yes.
A deadly secret agent breaches the perimeter. Who on earth could it be? Whoever it is, Bond is not scared of him, and in his pink thigh-high swim shorts will pick him up and throw him in the pool and give him a good old walk for. Kyle, who is it?
But it's of course Nigel Smallfaucet.
Insane.
He's here to beg Bond to come back to the British Secret Service because they'll collapse without him.
He's like, Bond, you need to come back. The double service is great. By the way, we forget to mention earlier in the film, I just small there's a brief phone conversation with Bond after their initial meeting where he wants to go snorkeling.
Snorkeling, yes.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of a bromance going on there. I don't think it's a one-way bromance, but
Yes.
it's there. I was like, oh, he's here to come snorkeling with Bond finally. But no, he's here to beg. He's here to beg.
But Bond says, no, never again.
Yeah, he says, no, never again.
Then he looks at the camera and winks at me.
He looks at the camera and winks, and everyone clapped. Well, at the time, I don't know how many people clapped. This, like I say, was supposed to be the start of a new spin-off series with Sean Connery. Crucially, by the way, Sean Connery never agreed to that.
He agreed to one more for a big pile of money.
Yeah, exactly. Because they ran out in time to make the purchase option in a sequel, and Sean Connery was like, I'm not doing it. And then that's how they ended up doing the Timothy Dalton idea. It never happened. Like, they're just going to remake Thunderball forever, basically.
God, I so wish that had actually happened, though, because that would be so funny if they just kept making Thunderball with old Bond actors.
When am I getting Thunderball with Pierce Brosnan?
Yeah, right now we could be getting Thunderball with Pierce Brosnan.
God, I would love it. They still ain't beaten the original song, though.
Sure.
Let's get a Thunderball remake starring Tom Jones.
Well, yes, that was Never Say Never Again. I guess the final question is, do you think this is better than Octopussy? Do you think it won the great Bond off of 1983?
Well, we know that it didn't at the time.
It made less money.
It made less money. I think critically they were kind of both about equal, though I think maybe actually Never Say Never Again was panned more at the time. Though there is a legacy section of the reviews where what contemporary people think of it, and people actually do look at Never Say Never Again a bit more favourably now than they did. Not by much, but they did. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of evened out with Octopussy. I think this is more entertaining than Octopussy. I would watch this over Octopussy any day of the week.
But Octopussy does have the pendulum killer.
The what?
The guy who he swings down like a buzzsaw.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, you're right. I don't care. This film has Nigel Smallfawcett.
It does have Nigel Smallfawcett. I think I'm with you. I think it's not massively better than Octopussy, but I do think it's slightly better than Octopussy.
I think this film gets a bad rap. It's a firmly middle of the pile, better than the original Thunderball and better than Octopussy Bond film. Better than Diamonds Are Forever? We'll say no.
I would say no.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, good. Just making sure we're on the same wavelength there.
I think Diamonds Are Forever was a more noble out for Sean Connery than this.
Yeah, I guess it's part of canon. It is, but yeah. Never Say Never Again, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think of Never Say Never Again? That's the important question. Leave your comments down below. But here is a call to action. Like and subscribe. Ring ding that bell. But after you've done that, you can be tracking down Kyle online. And Kyle, why don't you give these wonderful people a hand? Where can the people find you online?
People can, of course, find me at Kyle the Scot on YouTube, where I do video essays and game critiques. I'm also on Blue Sky very occasionally. I only post videos there, so don't worry about it. Nathan, where can the people find you?
Kyle, thank you for asking. The people can find me online, as always, at Nathan Tinney on all social media hosting services, Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, Mastodon. If you want me, I'm there. I also run our Twitter account for it's at name not included, or at name no included. Sorry.
Yes.
It is tagged up with all the BondVerse posts and stuff. You'll immediately know what it is the second you see it. That is our podcast feed on Twitter. You can, of course, listen to our entire back catalogue of Enter the BondVerse. We've done all of Connery now. Officially, that's Connery done. We'll never see him again. We've done Lazenby's one film. We've done basically all of Moore. We have one more to go.
We've got one more left. Next week's episode is View to a Kill.
View to a Kill. Yeah, you've led us into that, Kel. We've also done all of the DCEU films. Enter the DCEU. We took a look at every film in the DCEU. Everything from Man of Steel all the way through to Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And also, we took a look at Enter the Foxverse, where we went through all the films in the Fox X-Men universe. That was a fun one, I think.
I would say that was a fun one. I would say they're all fun ones, Nathan.
They are all fun ones. We never make bad content, frankly.
No, never.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening, and you can see us and hear us next week for A View to a Kill.